The Nintendo 64, abbreviated as the N64, is a fifth-generation home games console developed and marketed by Nintendo. It was in direct competition with the Sega Saturn and Sony PlayStation. Development began in 1993 in partnership with Silicon Graphics, using the codename Project Reality, then a test model and arcade platform called Ultra 64. The final design was named after its 64-bit CPU, which aided in the console's 3D capabilities. Its design was mostly complete by mid-1995, and launch was delayed until 1996 for the completion of the launch games Super Mario 64, Pilot Wing 64, and the Japanese exclusive Saikyo Habu Shogi. The charcoal grey console was followed by a series of colour variants, as well as two variants of the Pokémon-themed Pikachu 64. In today's video, I will be going through the top 10 best-selling games for the N64. Banjo-Kazooie is a 1998 platform game developed by Rare and published by Nintendo. Players control the characters Banjo, the bear, and Kazooie, the bird. The player attempts to save Banjo's kidnapped sister Tooty from the witch Gruntilda. Released in North America in late June 1998 and in Europe the following month, Banjo-Kazooie sold over 3 million copies. It received acclaim from critics, who said it surpassed Super Mario 64 as the best 3D platform and adventure game. The game was praised for its visuals, soundtrack, characters, writing, humour, and level design, while criticism was directed towards lack of originality and the camera system. Banjo-Kazooie received numerous year-end accolades, including 2 from the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences, Console Action Game of the Year, and Outstanding Achievement in Art Graphics.
Let's sneak in low and surprise them.
Star Fox 64, known as Lilat Wars in the PAL regions, is a 1997 rail shooter game developed and published by Nintendo for the Nintendo 64. It is the second installment in the Star Fox series and a reboot of the original Star Fox for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. The R-Wing is the primary fighter craft used by the Star Fox team. Certain levels also put the player in a tank-like vehicle called the Landmaster, as well as a submarine named the Blue Marine on the planet Aquas. Star Fox 64 was the first Nintendo 64 game to feature support for the system's Rumble Pack peripheral, which initially came bundled with retail copies of the game. The game received critical acclaim for its precise controls, voice acting, multiplayer modes, and replay value through the use of branching gameplay paths. Since its release in 1997, the game has sold over 4 million copies.
We're closing in on them, Falco.
Diddy Kong Racing is a 1997 kart racing game developed and published by Rare. The game revolves around Diddy Kong and his friends' attempt to defeat the intergalactic antagonist, a wizard pig named Wizpig, through winning a series of races. The player takes control of any of the featured characters throughout the game. Diddy Kong Racing features 5 worlds with 4 racetracks each, and the ability to drive a car, hovercraft, or pilot an aeroplane. Diddy Kong Racing received critical acclaim upon release. The graphics, audio, and gameplay were among the most lauded aspects, while some criticism was directed at the game's repetition. It sold 4.8 million copies since release. A sequel named Donkey Kong Racing was in development for the GameCube, but was abandoned in August 2002, 1 month before Microsoft purchased Rare for £375 million. Donkey Kong 64 is a 1999 platform game developed by Rare and published by Nintendo. It is the only Donkey Kong game to feature 3D gameplay. As the gorilla Donkey Kong, the player explores themed levels to collect items and rescue his kidnapped family members from King K. Rool, who seeks to destroy DK Isles. Rare began working on Donkey Kong 64 in 1997, following the completion of Donkey Kong Country 3 for the Super Nintendo. It was conceived as a 2.5D platformer similar to Country before becoming a more open-ended game using the engine from Rare's Banjo-Kazooie. Donkey Kong 64 received acclaim and was Nintendo's top seller during the 1999 holiday season. It ultimately sold 5.27 million copies worldwide. It won the 1999 E3 Game Critics Award for Best Platform Game and multiple awards and nominations from magazines. Pokémon Stadium, known in Japan as Pokémon Stadium 2, is a 1999 strategy video game that was developed and published by Nintendo. The gameplay revolves around a three-dimensional turn-based battling system using the 151 Pokémon from the Game Boy games Pokémon Red, Blue and Yellow, with several in-game challenges for players to overcome. The game utilised and was bundled with the Game Boy Transfer Pack that allowed the player to use Pokémon teams from compatible Game Boy games, as well as the ability to play the mentioned games on the TV screen. It was the first Stadium title released in Western regions, succeeding the Japan-only 1998 Nintendo 64 release Pocket Monsters Stadium. Critics praised the game's visuals and the connectivity with the Game Boy games, but criticised the game's audio quality and repetitive gameplay. A sequel, Pokémon Stadium 2, released in 2000, supporting connectivity with the games Pokémon Gold, Silver and Crystal. Super Smash Bros. Is a 1999 crossover fighting game developed by HAL Laboratory and published by Nintendo. It is the first game in the Super Smash Bros. Series and was released between January and November of 1999. The game is a crossover between different Nintendo franchises, including Mario, The Legend of Zelda, Star Fox, Yoshi, Donkey Kong, Metroid, F-Zero, Mother, Kirby and Pokémon. It presents a cast of characters and locations from these franchises and allows players to use each character's unique skills and the stage's hazards to inflict damage, recover health, and ultimately knock opponents off the stage. Super Smash Bros. Received generally positive reviews upon its release. It was a commercial success, selling 5.55 million copies worldwide. It was given an Editor's Choice Award from IGN for the best fighting game, and also became a Nintendo 64 Player's Choice title. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time is a 1998 action-adventure game developed and published by Nintendo. It was released in Japan and North America in November 1998 and in PAL regions the following month. The game is the first in the Legend of Zelda series with 3D graphics. The player controls Link in the realm of Hyrule on a quest to stop the evil King Ganondorf by travelling through time and navigating dungeons and an overworld. The game introduced features such as a target lock system and context-sensitive buttons, which have since become common in 3D adventure games. The player must play songs on an ocarina to progress. Ocarina of Time was acclaimed by critics and consumers, who praised its visuals, sound, gameplay, soundtrack, and writing. It was commercially successful, with more than 7.6 million copies sold worldwide. GoldenEye 007 is a 1997 first-person shooter video game developed by Rare and published by Nintendo. It is based on the 1995 James Bond film, GoldenEye, with the player controlling the secret agent James Bond to prevent a criminal syndicate from using a satellite weapon. It received critical acclaim and sold over 8 million copies. The game was praised for its visuals, gameplay depth and variety, and multiplayer mode. In 1998, it received the BAFTA Interactive Entertainment Award, as well as 4 awards from the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences. GoldenEye demonstrated the viability of home consoles as platforms for first-person shooters and signaled a transition from Doom-like shooters to a more realistic style. It pioneered features such as atmospheric single-player missions, Rare's new widescreen feature, stealth elements, and multiplayer console deathmatch. Mario Kart 64 is a 1996 kart racing game developed and published by Nintendo. It is the second main entry in the Mario Kart series and is the successor to Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Players control one of 8 Mario franchise characters, who race around 16 tracks, 4 in each of 4 cups, with items that can either harm opponents or aid the user. Changes from the original include introducing 3D computer graphics for track design and 4-player support. The characters and items remain 2D sprites, but 3D track features include elevation, bridges, walls, and pits. The game was commercially successful and was generally praised for the fun and high replay value of its multiplayer modes. It is regarded as one of the greatest video games of all time. Mario Kart 64 received generally positive reviews from critics, and it has sold over 9.87 million copies worldwide. Super Mario 64 is a 1996 platform game developed and published by Nintendo. It is the first Super Mario game to feature 3D gameplay, combining traditional Super Mario gameplay, visual style, and characters in a large open world. In the game, Bowser, the primary antagonist of the Super Mario franchise, invades Princess Peach's castle and hides the castle's sources of protection, the Power Stars, in many different worlds inside magical paintings. As Mario, the player collects Power Stars to unlock enough of Princess Peach's castle to get to Bowser and rescue Princess Peach. Super Mario 64 was highly anticipated by video game journalists and audiences, boosted by advertising campaigns and showings at the 1996 E3 trade show. It received critical acclaim, with reviewers praising its ambition, visuals, level design, and gameplay. Though some criticized its virtual camera system, it is the best-selling Nintendo 64 game, with nearly 12 million copies sold since it was released. That is all for this video. I sincerely apologize for the long delay from my last video, but the past month was very difficult for multiple reasons. I shall be resuming my upcoming content more often, with my next video coming out very soon. All future content will be released at a rate of a minimum of 1 a week, with some videos other than my top 10 charts. I thank you for getting this far, and leaving a like and subscribing to my channel would help me out a great deal. Thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Here are some suggestions for some of my previous videos, and I will be releasing some new ones soon.